Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you so much for helping the channel to reach 100,000 subscribers. When I first began making these videos, doing research into the old world, and just looking into our past, I never thought I would have found so many other people who also are interested in the same things that I am. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am very grateful for all of you. To celebrate today, we're going to do something a bit more esoteric. Many of us are familiar with the name Gilgamesh, but can we actually place a specific time period and location on this mythological ruler? That is what we will look to do today. Furthermore, when we look at the greatest ancient cities by size and population of the world, can we find significant proof not only of Gilgamesh, but of an overarching migration of knowledge, which seems to tie together the belief that our ancestors were much more intermingled than we have been led to believe in the mainstream narrative. According to the consensus of modern-day scholars, around 7000 BC, the largest settlements in the world were situated on the west bank of the Jordan River, named Beda and Basta, the latter situated a little over 20 miles away from the massive rock-cut buildings at Petra, Beda being even closer. However, by 6500 BC through roughly 4000 BC, we're told the largest settlement in the world, known as a proto-city, was Katal Hoyok in modern-day Turkey, which was home to up to 10,000 permanent residents. Interesting as this is, the next settlement, which truly resembles what we might imagine as a proto-city, comes to us from what is modern-day Ukraine. I need not explain the relevance of this in the context of today's news. However, it is remarkable to me that both of these settlements in Ukraine, each considered to be the largest in the world, circa 3600 BC, have only been discovered in the last 50 years using infrared aerial photography. What's truly shocking is, according to the scholars who have gone in and excavated this site, these were entirely fortified settlements. Essentially, they were cities that were fortified, much in the same fashion as major cities would appear millennia later. These Ukrainian proto-cities, known as Talyanki and Maidanets respectively, contained at least two sets of concentric defensive walls and may be the precursors to the bastion or star forts of thousands of years later. According to the infrared technology and the scholars who have done this research, these locations contain at least 2,000 unique buildings each, with some of these buildings being estimated to stand 2 stories tall or more. Estimates vary, but each Ukrainian ancient fortified city from the year 3600 BC was said to contain at least 15,000 people, with more modern estimates of Maidanets raising this number to over 40,000. The massive population of these fortified locations only heightens the questioning of the narrative, both historical and modern. It was only in the last 50 years that we developed the technology necessary to discover these ancient cities in Ukraine. For millennia, they sat abandoned. Eventually, they were overgrown, and the different people to call these areas home gradually moved on, and the history was lost. If it took over 5,000 years to relocate these ancient cities, which were once the largest in the world, just imagine what other things we will rediscover in the near future. This is where we come to the time of Gilgamesh. From roughly 3500 BC through 2800 BC, we have what might be considered the largest lost city of the ancient world, Uruk, which was situated in what is today Iraq. It is estimated that in 3600 BC, the settlement of Uruk had roughly 10,000 occupants. By 3500 BC, the number of residents in Uruk had risen to 14,000, making Uruk one of the largest settlements in the world. Yet, by 3300 BC, just 200 years later, the population of Uruk had jumped to over 40,000 people, which doubled again by 2800 BC when Uruk reached its pinnacle at 80,000 residents or more. Uruk is considered the type site for the Uruk period, essentially defining the period through its immense, yet now mostly lost structures. According to the Sumerian king list, Uruk was founded by Enmerkar, who constructed the towering House of Heaven for the goddess Ishtar. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh actually builds the first city wall around the House of Heaven, thus fortifying Uruk and establishing his kingdom as the largest in the world. We're told Uruk was initially formed in roughly 4000 BC when two smaller settlements, each responsible for a specific deity's worship, were merged. We had the Ishtar district, which was centered around the House of Heaven, and then we had the much older Anu district, dedicated to Anu, the ruler of the gods and the personification of the sky. The city was composed of typical courtyard houses grouped by the profession of the occupant. The city had a near complete system for distributing fresh water. Uruk was extremely well penetrated by a canal system that has been described as the Venice of the desert. The canal system of Uruk was said to flow throughout the city's buildings, connecting Uruk with the maritime trade on the ancient Euphrates River, helping to rapidly increase its size. However, the original ancient city of Uruk went dry when the Euphrates slightly changed course. Uruk was situated southwest of the ancient Euphrates River. Today, the ancient Anu district of Uruk still partially stands as one single, massive ziggurat, known as the Ziggurat of Anu. Uruk, known as Orca to the Greeks, survived well into Greek times. The Parthians gained control of Uruk in 141 BC, followed by a massive decline to the point of abandonment by roughly the year 300. The decline of Uruk after the Parthians may have been in part caused by the shift in the Euphrates River. However, it is unknown if this shift was naturally occurring or man-made. Either way, it seemed to have caused a significant change in the landscape. By shortly after the year 300, we're told in this narrative, Uruk was said to be entirely lost, only to be rediscovered by small tribes who then left their mark. However, from the year 700, following the Islamic conquest until roughly 1849, there is no evidence of human occupation of Uruk. We're told Uruk was first rediscovered in 1849 and then excavated from 1850 through 1851. Interestingly, the first to rediscover this location in 1849 named the site Erech, not Uruk. Reading into this further, there appears to be an ancient Hebrew name for the city, and that is also Erech. To further complicate things, a few rogue scholars of the 19th century seem to imply a connection, at least linguistically, between Uruk, called Erech, and the Viking hordes which traveled the world during the so-called Dark Ages and possibly earlier. When we consider that the largest settlements in the world seem to stretch from the West Bank, then through the Middle East, then into ancient Ukraine, with Ukraine being a location some may deem today as once Tartarian, and if these locations appear to show similarities which would be almost impossible in the year 3500 BC, it becomes even more important to us and clear that we need to consider the possibility that our current narrative may be due for an update. By the way, just food for thought, the Epic of Gilgamesh was also rediscovered in what year? 1849, the same year that Uruk, or Erech, was rediscovered and presented to the world. What a saga. At the apex of hundreds, if not thousands, of groundbreaking discoveries which all occurred during the Industrial Revolution, I find it fascinating that nearly everything we know about the ancient world was formulated at this time. The ancient population of Uruk, 80,000 in the year 2800 BC, would not be exceeded until over 1,000 years later, when the population of Avaris in ancient Egypt exceeded 80,000 people. You can check out the full list of the largest settlements, the largest cities, proto-cities throughout history. I will leave that link down below. But I just wanted to wrap up the video by again extending a huge thank you to everyone who has made my channel possible, who has helped me reach 100,000 subscribers. You really are like a family to me, and I can't wait to show you all of the new things that I have discovered and we will look at in the year to come. So stick with the channel, please like, share, and subscribe, and I can't wait to hear what you think about the ancient Epic of Gilgamesh down below. We will talk more on the next video.